I hit record this time.
I always look. That's the new thing. I always look up there now. What is up, Jamie?
What is up? No wasted efforts here. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to UltraRunning News Network. Here we are again, episode 9. Still kicking.
9. It's not. We're one away from double digits, baby.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get another badge on the podcast platform.
And just in case everyone doesn't notice, tonight, this week, we're going to be coming to you one day earlier than normal and 2 days earlier than last week, because tomorrow from when we're recording this, is Valentine's Day, and we wanted to be able to hang out with the loved ones and do Valentine's Day stuff as opposed to doing podcast stuff. So, coming to you a day early.
The Hallmark holiday wins.
The Hallmark holiday. Oh, hey, it's, it is what it is.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are happy to report that Black Canyon did not disappoint.
Absolutely awesome race. Absolutely awesome race.
Yeah, it was great. So I was worried initially that I was going to miss a lot of the live stream, but because I was going for my long run Saturday. But when I woke up in the morning, I learned that Black Canyon was on a 2-hour delay. They had a lot of snow, or not a lot, but I think they had a couple inches of snow up where the race starts in Mayer, Arizona, at the high school there. And the buses were going to have problems because it was freezing temperatures and they were worried about ice and things like that. So
such a Arizona problem, right?
Yeah, totally.
So like there's two parts of that just really cracks me up. It's like, 2-hour delay. It's like when you and I were kids in the Midwest, waking up with a school delay, like, 2-hour delay. You're like, let's go. But the other part of it that really cracks me up is the fact that it's like the Arizona folks are like, don't know if the buses can handle this. Meanwhile, out here, buses are like, let's go, busting through drifts and all that kind of stuff. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I was worried about like what are the river crossings going to look like. Like that, I was like, man, like this. It never seems to disappoint, right? In my head, I'm like, what are the times going to look like this year? Because like people are going to get swept away in the rivers. Clearly did not happen, and we can talk about that here in a little bit. But
I also thought the river crossings were going to be crazy, and I didn't actually see why, but they did reroute just one little section of course, and I'm not exactly sure why, or it was towards the beginning, I believe, but a little section was rerouted, but it didn't affect the distance or anything like that.
It had something to do with it was like the very beginning. It had something to do with the track, because you know how it starts. Like you do like a 300 meters. You
like a half loop or something.
Yeah. It was something around in there. It was literally that early in the course. Like it was like, where they start here as opposed to here. Like I think they wanted to keep them off from the tracks or something. Off from the track.
Okay.
So
there was a little reroute, but other than that, they did the river crossings to my knowledge. There's video of the one river crossing that's kind of, I don't know, 5 or 6 miles from mile 50, Table Mesa, mile 50.8. That's a pretty wide river, and they were doing that crossing. It didn't look crazy deep, maybe shin. It was probably shin deep when we did it. So, but I got a little video to show of one of that river crossing when we talk about that. So yeah, the race was delayed, and I was happy because I got home in time to watch the whole second half of the live stream.
That's awesome. And
when I first turned it on, it was Hayden Hawks leading, and the veteran. Johnny's pick.
That's right. Let's go. Old man energy. Let's get it, Hayden.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit more about Hayden Hawks in a minute here. But he was leading, and it was the young gun out of Georgia.
Out of Georgia or South Carolina?
Georgia.
Oh, I thought he was out of Georgia. Yeah, I thought he was out of South Carolina.
Yep.
Regards, Hans.
Georgia. And then somebody else was with him at that point too. And it was,
we were just talking about it. Yeah.
And it was at the 50K mark. But anyway, they were in a really tight pack together. But let's go back a little bit to the beginning. We're going to talk about the men's race first, and then we'll talk about the women's. So in the beginning, Matthew Seidel, who's a Bay Area guy, was in the lead early at like mile 7.6, the first aid station, and Hayden Hawks was right there, and Bobby Peavy and Hans Troyer were also right in the mix. The top 10 men came through with 11 seconds of each other, so it was really tight the first 7.6 miles. And this continued through Bumblebee at 19.2 miles, where Seidel, Troyer, and Hawks all came through the checkpoint within 1 minute of each other. And then at checkpoint 4, Gloriana Mine, around mile 24, that's when things started getting interesting. Hayden Hawks and Hans Troyer were ahead by a minute. They both reached mile 24 in 2 hours and 35 minutes, which, I mean, if you think about a road marathon, at 26.2 miles, a sub 3 hour road marathon would be pretty good, right? Like,
I'd give my left leg for that.
I was like, these guys were easily a sub 3 hour marathon. In fact, I believe I saw the splits. I think they came through the 50K mark in 3 hours and 31 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So they were just screaming. And Hayden Hawks, coming off of knee surgery 6 months ago, so I guess he healed up pretty well.
So it's an interesting thing, right? Like sometimes that physical therapy, it allows you to recover, right? Like when you're forced to do physical therapy, it allows you to recover. It allows you to, weirdly enough, get fresh, right? Like you're obviously not training, so you're not putting that load on your legs. But also, even though they're elites, I'm sure I know for a fact they're doing cross training and stuff like that and strength training. But when you're doing that PT, you're doing all those itty bitty little it's in a weird kind of way. Coming off from some surgeries like that, you're fresher and faster, and
it's like doing strength training, right?
My dude Hayden Hawks, I'm stoked. Yeah. I am just over the moon stoked. He got it.
Yeah, and it was impressive to see too, because he's one of the veterans, and he ran his own race. I mean, he never let off the gas. And the live stream said that he looked like he was grimacing a little bit, and Hans Troyer was smiling at the halfway point. But that kind of proved to be different, because after they left there, or after they left Cottonwood Gulch, that's where Hawks just kind of started separating from Hans Troyer. And then Hans dropped back and eventually went to 5th place by Table Mesa, which is just over 50 miles into the race.
Well, that's what you and I are talking about, right? Like you and I were texting back and forth during the race, and like at Cottonwood is when you and I are talking, I believe. And we're like, hey, like this is where, depending on who wins, you'll be able to write the story of why they won, right? Like if Hayden wins, you're like, well, he leaned into his experience. He leaned into like been there, done that kind of thing, and like probably just like knew how to mess with the kid. You know what I mean? And the flip of that is we're like, well, if Hans ends up, gutting this out, then it's like the story becomes, oh well, Hans is young. He has fresh legs. He's he doesn't have a decade worth of ultras on him. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of cool, but that was a really cool part of the race where like those two coming out together and then just watching experience take over is so cool.
Yeah, that was a really great point that you made on the text there, because you were right. And it did prove that experience, Hayden Hawks, he knew what he was capable of. He knew what he could get away with. And Hans Troyer was maybe going faster, than he should have, just to keep up with him. When if he would have maybe reserved a little bit, he might have had some in the tank. But I don't know, because Hawks just didn't let up.
It was really. I feel like I saw a social media post from Troyer talking about, like, hey, good day in the desert, a lot of lessons learned. And you're like, well, I bet. Like I bet. You know what I mean? Like, it's a kid coming fresh out of college, right?
Yep.
So like when you're running in college, you have a 4-year gap of knowledge to learn, right? Like there's only 4 years. Now you're into this world of professional or elite running, and it's not, oh, look, there's just 4 years of difference between me and the furthest out person possibly. It's years and years of difference. So
you have a lot to learn with the ultra distances. Even if you're fast, I mean, you still got to learn about fueling. You still got to learn about pacing. You got to learn about problem solving, right?
Never mind. Like, I mean, you and I are clearly not on this level, but we like, you read stuff, we read stuff, we see things, we hear about the funny things that go on. Who is it? There was a runner a handful of years ago. It's like, oh yeah, when it's nighttime and I see I'm coming up on somebody, I like to turn my light off and mess with them, and then all of a sudden turn it right back on when I'm right behind them. I'm like, holy shit! Like that's wild. I feel like I was a story coming out of Western States that someone was talking about doing that. I'm like, that is awesome. Like that is like the mind games that go into this. So you just it would be so cool to be a little bug in Hayden Hawks' head on this run where he's like, oh, watch this. You know what I mean? Like
right.
And then who knows? Maybe you are dead ass wrong, and he's like, no, I just leaned into it, ran my ass off the whole way. Like we could both be dead wrong.
I mean, he was in total control. He from wire to wire. And when he got into Doe Springs, which is mile 58 point something, it's less than 4 miles to go, a little over 3 miles to go. He was 34 seconds faster than the course record set last year by Anthony Costales. And then Hawks went on to set the course record and win in 7 hours and 30 seconds. 7 hours and 30 minutes and 18 seconds, which is like a course record by, I think, 2 minutes.
So repeat that back for us again. He was, at what point was he only 18 seconds ahead of it?
At Doe Springs, he was 34 seconds ahead of the course record.
And Doe Springs is
a little over 3 miles to go.
Yeah, Doe Springs is like 58 miles.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So he's only 34 seconds ahead of record.
Yeah.
At Doe.
Yep.
And in 3-ish miles,
he
turns he hammers it so hard those last 3.5. Like that is nuts. Like he's only he's under a minute ahead of record.
He gained 2 minutes.
Gains 2 minutes. Like that's like effing nuts. Gaining 2 minutes of time at 3 miles at that speed. My fat ass, I'm so slow. I could probably do that no problem. But for someone that already going that fast, it's just like, I'm absolutely enamored with his run at Black Canyon.
No, it was great. It was really cool to see. I think everybody was rooting for him. It was awesome. And then so this guy that kind of really wasn't on anybody's radar, Jupiter Carrera Casas. He's from Mexico, And if you look up his ultra sign up, you'll see he's dominated all these races in Mexico, like tons of ultras. And he even said it in the interview afterwards. They asked him why did he come to the United States to race this and all that. And he said he's done, he's experienced all the ultras in Mexico, and he wanted to see what he could do here. He did run Pikes Peak, one of the Pikes Peak events before, but this was his first ultra in the United States. And he ended up getting second. He was one that ran a really smart race, right? He didn't hang with the lead pack at the beginning and burn himself out. He just methodically just kind of was passing people through the race and ended up finding himself in second place. And he held on to second place. And Chris Myers, who's a young kid, he's a Solomon athlete. He's kind of up and coming. I didn't know much about him either. And he ended up moving into third place, and he held on to third. And if we
on the note of Jupiter, isn't he the one? What was the other thing that's really interesting about him? He had like a medical thing too, right?
Yeah, I can't remember.
What did we hear about him? Like I could have swore. There you go. There's good podcast listening for you folks. I ask a question that we don't know the answer to.
Yeah.
I feel like
we'll look it up and get back.
Yeah. I feel like Jupiter had a really something else really interesting about him that was like kind of wild, but I can't recall what it was.
Yeah, in the interview afterwards, and he doesn't really speak English. We had a translator, and he just seemed like a super humble guy, like really cool guy. And he's excited to race Western States. I can't wait to see what him and Hayden Hawks do at Western States. And Chris Myers, who I believe was in Western States last year.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. But anyways, it'll be exciting to see what they all do. And then so my first pick, which was John Ray. He finished 21st, so he didn't have the day he wanted, but he did finish in 8 hours and 45 minutes, which is no slouch. And my second pick, Jeffrey Stern, was 8 hours and 29 minutes. And I think your second pick was Ryan Montgomery, and they finished in 26. So one point I wanted to make about the men's race, in the history of Black Canyon, there's been, and I heard this on the live stream, there's been, leading up to this year, there was 7 people that finished the race in under 8 hours. 7 people for all the years that the race has taken place. This year, this is how elite the field was. 8 runners finished under 8 hours. Yeah. So more runners finished under 8 hours this year than in all the previous years combined.
All of it, absolutely bonkers. Like, it's so weird. Like, it's so funny because I was like, oh, the court, it's going to be such, again, going back to like, you sit and you look at it like, oh man, the water crossing. And it's like, nope, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. And one last thing I want to say about the men's race, and it kind of had some drama at the end. And so Hans Troyer was in 9th and seemingly cruising to 9th. And just out of nowhere comes Nate Jukes, this guy, just flying out of nowhere, and passes him right at the finish.
3 seconds. 3 second difference.
So I found the live stream of this. So we should check this out real quick here. So this, for those of you listening on the podcast, this is a drone shot of Hans Troyer. He's just like a couple hundred meters out
I don't
from
know if
the
everybody
finish.
can
Nate
hear
Jukes
what
is
we're
coming in
hearing.
hot. Nate Jukes is coming in hot.
So Hans
Yes!
Troyer is in
Oh,
a white
Nate
jersey.
Jukes!
Look at him go!
There's Nate
Oh,
Jukes.
Cattle guard, cattle
We've got a
guard,
classic
cattle guard.
situation.
Let's go!
And
Gonna get past.
he's just tracking him
Here we
down
go.
Ugh.
No.
like
Here we go.
Oh, no.
like 40 feet
Here
from
we
the
go.
finish.
Here we go. Nate Jukes with the late pass.
Just goes right by him.
Wow.
Followed by Hans
Hans
Troyer.
Troyer is probably like, what
It
the?
is your top 10 men.
He still
all
finished-
under
That was
8 hours and
incredible.
He still finished,
Justin Grunwald, Ben
maybe
Koss all
10.
over again. Wow.
Oh, it's so rude.
It's so
Yet
rude.
so glorious. I love it.
He said so rude but so glorious.
Yeah. Dude, that was the ultimate on your left. On your
Yeah,
left.
yeah, on your left.
On
Fast
your
runner
left.
coming through.
Trail on your left. Like just
Yeah.
coming through. I love the call for the cattle guard. Cattle
Yeah.
guard. You know what I mean? I kind of wonder, right? Like you look at that and like what was did Hans just not care? Was Hans like, you know, like let's be honest, what's there between 9th and 10th? Did he just not care? Or was he just too gassed to do anything about it? Or my third thought is like, did he think the cattle guard was to finish for some reason, right? Like I just wonder, like, I would love to be in his mind and just kind of know like what's going on. You know what I mean? Like those are like the three immediate thoughts I have. But that video is absolute fire. It looks like they're on two different speeds. It looks like it was somehow like it looks like Nate was on like on like 2.5 speed and Hans is on like 0.25 speed.
Right.
Like the way he pulled him in, it was like a tracker beam going back
totally.
Just nuts.
Yeah. If anybody wants to check it out, if you're not listening or if you're not watching on the YouTube channel, you can go onto the Black Canyon live stream video footage, and it's about 8:47 and like 45 seconds. If you go to that point, you'll be able to see it. But
pretty great.
But yeah, I honestly think that Hans was just not aware that he was behind him. And like you said, though, there was that other arch before the finish line too. Maybe he thought that was it.
Yeah. And it's
know.
weird. Like I remember, you know, finishing that race last year, and like for me, what a kid, fully different worlds. I remember seeing the stupid big ass like balloon things lit up, and you can see it in that video. As a matter of fact, you can see like the last one before, but they start like miles out, right? Like they start like, and so you see like, is my watch wrong? Am I close? And like, nope. They just have them like every like quarter mile for like the mile. You know what I mean? You're like, damn it.
Yeah, they say on the live stream they said there was one every 100 meters out for like, I don't know what it was, like 400 or 500 meters.
Yeah. It's so weird. It's so weird. Like you see, and like for it's daylight for these guys, but you know when I it was night. You know, it's night when you're finishing, right? So you're like, oh, there's a light. It's the finish. Womp womp.
Yeah, I noticed they moved the actual finish line a little bit further past that dip in the trail, right before, like, because when we finished, that dip was right at the finish line that I tripped over.
Yeah.
They moved it back a little bit. I wonder
why.
Yeah.
It'll forever now be known as the Jamie finish line.
Yeah, I'm glad that there's still video evidence of that. Right. All right. Let's talk about the women's race, because that one was very exciting as well. Let me find where I'm at here. Okay. So the women, Rachel Drake, she chased a fast start, outran the rest of the women late with an 8-hour and 47-second winning time. And that was just 2 minutes back of the female course record from Keely Henninger last year. Or no, I don't know if that's the course record or not. Keely Henninger's 2023 winning time. And Rachel Drake is best known for a shorter course success, but she just doesn't ever seem to have a bad race, is what this I Run Far article says. Looking back at further distance, or further back at longer distances, she was 7th at the 2019 CCC race. So she might not have been on the radar really for the ultra distance, even though she has success in short courses. But she did just dominate the race. But it was close for a long time. This Becca Wendell, who is second, Becca and Rachel crossed this river at the same time. And then right after that river crossing is when Rachel just took off. And I'll show you this video in a second. I was actually watching it live when it happened too. And I was like, holy crap, what the heck just happened? So it's cool to see. And Lauren Peretz came in third. So Becca Wendell second in 8 hours and 52 seconds. Lauren Peretz in 9 hours and 6 seconds. The second place female, Becca Wendell, she won 2021 Bear 100, which I've done, and that's no joke of a race. And third place Peretz was 8th at Javelina 100. So, yeah. So Rachel Drake, Becca Wendell, or parents. Tara Dower was 7th. I think was that your second pick?
That was my first pick for women. My second pick was my Ohio
Sarah Beal.
Sarah Beal had a rough outing there again this year.
Yeah.
So my first pick didn't do bad. She had 7th place. So pretty good one. Who is your picture? Two thoughts are jumping in my head. I try to remember who your picks were, but there's another observation I just noticed about the women's finishing that is pretty impressive too. Who's your picks?
Oh, so my first pick was Anna Cautious from San Francisco, but she was a scratch. So I had to default to my second pick, which is Riley Brady, and they finished
ninth.
ninth.
Ninth. So interesting thing about Riley finishing ninth is there's only 2 in a women's division under 30 years old to crack the top 10 versus, and so when you look at the women's division, first place is 30 to 39, second 30 to 39. But Lauren, right, representing for Gen X and come in with a strong 9 hour 6, Lauren representing for all of us latchkey kids, absolutely killing it. You know what I'm saying?
Latchkey kids.
I love the fact that it's she's holding off all these youngsters. I love that shit. So
yeah, that's good to see for sure. So let's take a look. Okay, here's a little bit more in-depth look at the women's race. So it started with Heather Jackson leading the pack by 1 minute at the first checkpoint. She came in at 54.06. Rachel Drake and Anna McKenna is from Australia, followed shortly behind. Race went on. Jackson continued to widen the gap between her and competitors by 12.8 mile mark. There was more than 2 minute gap between her and second place Sarah Beal. Women in positions 2 to 6 were all close to one another. Jackson held the lead through Black Canyon City, which is 37.7 miles in, but in less than 9 miles that followed to Cottonwood Gulch, Becca Wendell and Rachel Drake had closed the gap and moved to 16 minutes clear of Jackson, with Wendell narrowly leading Drake through the checkpoint. That's at Black Canyon City, mile 37.7. From there, Jackson dropped back, so she was leading and then ended up getting overtaken. And Drake and Wendell went head to head for the remaining miles. And like I said, they were really close up to that river. They were battling it out. And that final river crossing is when, on the exit, is when Rachel Drake really just took off. And I'm going to show you this video right now. This is pretty cool. So check this out.
Time away from our lead man coming from
It's
Phillips.
the river,
Give an update
the
on
river
the-
video, the bigger
now through
one.
Cottonwood Gulch.
So there they are. They
Just to
come
refresh
down.
Is that
what's
Rachel?
happening there. So they just bumped Rachel's tracker
Oh, she's running through the river right now.
out of but they
So
just
Rachel
her
Drake's
tracker
in
just,
first,
went wacky, like she's not listed in the
and
tracker now. All of a sudden,
Wendell
so
is in
That's,
second.
that's Becca Wendell.
Becca
So that's
behind her.
that's Rachel Drake in 1 and Becca Wendell in 2. Right now,
Oh,
coming
that's so
across the
sick.
river together. So they've dropped Liam. Liam's behind them. He's like, let them do their thing together, which I think is really classy. To be
Yeah.
like, you know what?
Oh,
Like, this
So
is
they're
what you are, ladies.
approaching
I'm
the
gonna
climb
step
out
the way
of
here.
the
So
bank.
we've got Rachel Drake and Becca Wendell.
Drake
1
slips
and
a little
2,
bit.
crossing
Oh.
the very muddy.
Boom! Just takes
Oh,
off.
Rachel's got a step.
Rachel breaking away.
And Becca
would've thought it would
Wendell
happen
had
coming
slipped
out of
too,
a
and it took her a
river.
minute to get back
But
up.
then
But
behind
look
them, we
at,
got
she is
Lauren
just
Perez in
gone.
3, Kat Drew in 4, Jenna Bensko in 5, Marcy
Like,
Klimek in 6,
She
Heather
just
Jackson
instantly.
in 7th, Anna
She
in
knew.
8th,
She
Tara
knew.
Dow
Yeah.
in 9th, Genevieve Aslan Demers in 10th,
And she
Riley
didn't let
Brady
up from
in
there.
11th.
Yeah.
Uh,
So it's funny, like we're talking about like tactics and we're talking about like how to attack your competitors and stuff like that. The thing that's really kind of neat there is, like we said, like she knew that that's gonna be hard to get up out of that mud, and she knew once she did it, like this my time. The other thing that's really interesting about that part of the race is like that bush is kind of tall and there's like a little bit of turning, and
Yeah.
like if you hammer it, weirdly enough, even though you're only a handful of meters in front of the person, they can't necessarily see you, and that's really it can be tough. The other thing that I it's again really cool observation. When we were listening on that video, it was really cool. Liam is the
Yeah.
guy who's right there, right?
Yep.
And like we make jokes about like getting out of people's way and all this kind of stuff, but like it is kind of neat. And she was right. It's a really classy move that he is like, hey, Liam's like, I ain't got a dog in this fight, right? Like, I'm
Right.
going to slow down and let you two do what you want to do at the other side of this river, and I'm going to stay way, way out of your way. He slowed down to like a walk, like damn near like standing in the water, kind of stopped.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm going to let these two women battle for first and second. I'm not going to I don't want to get in their way at all. So that is a really cool video.
Yeah, that's a class act move right there. Yeah, no, good on him for sure. So that was the female race. So all around pretty exciting year for Black Canyon. And all right, there wasn't really many other races of note over the weekend. There was a 100-miler in Oklahoma, the Outlaw 100. Well, they had a 135-mile event too, but the 100-mile event, John Williman was first in 27 hours and 41 minutes. Sarah Wallace was first female, 27 hours, 56 minutes. The 135-mile, there was only 4 finishers. Brian McConnell was first, 39 hours and 37 minutes. And there was a 50-mile race as well. Ashley Rolowitz Pipkin won first place female and won the race outright in 11 hours and 14 minutes. Corey McDaniel was first for the men in 11 hours and 40 minutes. So, that was pretty much it for other races. Algonquin 50K in Maryland, Rocky 50-miler. Oh, that's part of the Rocky Raccoon series, I believe. The Rocky 50-miler in Huntsville, Texas, was over.
Oh my God! Could you imagine how jacked up that course is?
Yeah,
That course is probably rocked.
Oh yeah. So this is interesting. for the Rocky 50. Zach Bitter, first place overall, 6 hours 59 minutes, and his wife Nicole Bitter was first place female, 7 hours and 40 minutes.
Dang, a couple that dominates together stays together.
That's right. Yeah, they're
What's
both
wild
super fast.
What's wild is when you look at Zach's time, it's an hour and a half faster than the second place dude. Like, he annihilated the second place dude.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, his wife beat the beat third place, the second place dude by an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Over an hour. Yeah, almost an hour. Yep. Pretty impressive. Okay. So that's it for race results and race recap. I do want to, so Black Canyon was part of this thing, and I think this is somewhat new, but it's called the World Trail Majors, and Black Canyon was actually the second race for the World Trail Majors. And the World Trail Majors brings together some of the best trail ultra races in the world with respect to each to their own identity, diversity, respect, and personality. There's a bunch of traits that these races are required to have. And it seems pretty cool. Hong Kong 100K was the first of the World Trail Majors. Black Canyon was second. Trans Gran Canaria is third. Mount Fuji is fourth. Madeira is fifth. Swiss Canyon, South Downs Way, and Quebec Mega Trail is in this, which is a really tough race from my understanding. Grand Raid Pyrenees, and that's the World Trail Majors. So I think they are going to have some prize money. And I thought that they said that Jupiter guy had raced in the Hong Kong 100K, but I didn't see his name in the finishers list, so I'm not sure. But yeah, so Black Canyon was part of that. I just wanted to point that out. Next week, or this coming weekend, there are some races. Jackpot. We're going to talk about Jackpot a little bit here. Jackpot. Well, let me just finish going over this, and then we'll talk about Jackpot. Destin Beach Ultra. That's kind of a famous one. It's been around a while. AF marathoner. He was attempting to do his own self-supported version of this race last weekend. I think he was encountering where he had to cross a lot of water and the sand was pretty difficult to navigate. I think he called it at mile 37 or mile 38. Yeah. Sounds like it was pretty tough going, but because he's actually volunteering at Jackpot this weekend. So let's see what else. Notable races. Formidable 50K in Cool, California. That's one that's kind of well known. Hag Lake in Oregon, Hag Lake Mud Runs 50K is this weekend. And Rocks and Roots at Allen Creek State Park 50K is this weekend as well. All right.
Maybe I'll go over there and throw stuff at people.
Yeah. Yeah. Still need to order some stickers for.
I was just going to say, if we had stickers, if there's some way somehow we can get stickers in 3 to 4 days.
I got thrown off when my cell phone died. Yeah, crapped out on me Saturday, but I'll get some stickers ordered, and maybe we'll have to have like some contests or something on here where we get people engaged. And send them some stickers if they
like and comment and just shoot some stickers out. Yeah,
okay, Jackpot. Let's talk about this. So this is in Vegas, and it's been going on for a while. It's in February every year, And it seems like a cool event, although it is mostly like concrete surface. There's a little section, I think, of gravel, but it's mostly concrete. And this year, the USATF, the track and field 100-mile championships, is at Jackpot. So they have to have a certified course for the USATF. Any USATF races. So they have a short loop that's specifically designed for the USATF runners. And then they have a long loop. And the short loop is like 1.17 miles. And the long loop is 2.3094 miles. So there's all kinds of events here. The long loop is kind of wacky. For those of you can't see the screen, it's kind of like a loop, but there's a horseshoe in the middle of it. And then the short loop is also on the same course. They just don't do these horseshoe parts.
Oh wait, it is the same course. Scroll back up real fast.
It is.
It looked like there's two different whole.
Yeah. So if you see, here's the campground.
Yeah, there's that little bump out thing. Scroll back down real fast.
Yeah. It doesn't connect. Like the long loop doesn't connect on a round loop.
Yeah.
You like got to do this loop around the campground and then back up, and I don't know, it's wacky. But anyway, there's all kinds of events here. There's 48-hour, 24-hour, 12-hour, 6-hour, 50-mile, 100-mile. And it usually draws in some big names. In the past, Arlen Glick's done it, and Camille Herron, and quite a few big names like speedsters come out for these races. This year, Ashley Paulson is running. She won Badwater 135. She won it outright last year. So
she was the one with a little bit of controversy, right? And then and like thankfully, like it got cleared up, and she was cleared of it. I feel bad. I feel bad for even bringing it up, right? Like it sucks. That's like I feel bad for even remembering her that way.
Yeah,
like it shouldn't be how she's remembered. I as soon as I said, I'm like, you jerk.
Well,
she was
involved with professional running back, I don't know, like 6-7 years ago. In 2016, she was on a doping ban. She had a doping ban, and I don't really know the details behind it. I don't think it was anything crazy. And then not last year's Badwater, but 2 years ago Badwater, there was some accusations that her splits looked weird, that maybe she rode in a vehicle or something. But they did an investigation. They found it to not be true. And then this year she comes back and just proves everybody wrong and just wins the race outright.
Yeah. I'll show you guys.
Good for her. It'd be cool to follow her here at Jackpot. I think she's doing the 100-mile event. So, but yeah, Jack. Oh, and this is an Air Viper race. Air Viper took over this race, and it is live streamed with commentary. It's kind of a fun one to follow. But yeah. So anyway, that's going on this weekend. All righty.
Jen will be working a 12-hour shift that day, so I'm sure that just means that Jackpot will be pulled up on the big screen all day, just watching people do circles.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
Good times.
I had Black Canyon on the living room TV. I was laying on the couch after my long run Saturdays.
It's awesome.
Just watching UltraRunning live,
Yeah. What do you mean? What am I doing?
Yeah. And in some sad news in the running world, the current record holder for the marathon died. Him and his coach died in a car crash. Kelvin Kiptum. He's the men's marathon world record holder. He set the world record at Chicago Marathon last year in October in 2 hours flat in 35 seconds. So yeah, some sad news out of
Yeah.
Kenya.
Yeah, it's a shame because, I mean, not only did family lose their loved one, right? Like that first and foremost, that's the big thing, right? Like a family lost their loved one. But holy cow, like the sky was the limit with this guy. You know what I mean? Like it was just like it was just like what it had the feeling that it wasn't a if, but it was a win. You know what I mean? Like you can't take the talent away from him, but it was just like the combination of him being an absolutely amazing runner and then like the shoes that's out there now, right? Like you look
Yeah.
at that and like you're just like, oh, this
He
dude's definitely got it. You know, it's just
he was only 24 years old.
yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that he would eventually broke 2 hours.
And I feel like one of the articles I had read, I feel like it even made a comment. I think this is one I shared on our Twitter account. I feel like it even made a comment that he was about to run a race with
Kipchoge.
Yeah. And they were getting ready to run a race together, and that was like, ooh, you know what I mean? Like, just horrible
That'd be pretty
news.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really sad. And it's not ultra marathon related, but it is running related, and he is the men's marathon world record holder, so it's definitely
notable.
Something of note. Condolences to anybody that was associated with Kelvin. And then in some better news, Laz, Gary Cantrell, the guy that puts on Barkley and also some other crazy races, was inducted into the UltraRunning Hall of Fame. That's
effing awesome. Like that is super awesome. And like how is he not? Right? Like how is he not? Like what a absolute I mean, like, here's what's funny about him is I feel like, and I'm dead ass wrong about it, I feel like even a lot of like ultra runners know him for what we see here on the screen, right? The old guy with a big, huge beard, taking big drags off a heater at the starting line.
That's right.
And I feel like that's how a lot of people know him. What they don't know is like the one documentary it's out, and he has like the map that he has to unfold and unfold and unfold and unfold, and it's just like huge ass map of Tennessee, and it's all the roads he's ran on in Tennessee.
Yep.
And you're just like, dude, this guy is freakishly, like, it's just an absolute freak. So yeah,
I think he has over 250,000 lifetime running miles or something.
It's just ridiculous. Absolutely bonkers. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Laz, so let's talk about this a little bit. The UltraRunning Hall of Fame. So it's currently managed by a guy named Davey Crockett, who does the UltraRunning History podcast, which, like, to me, like, some people might find that podcast kind of boring because it is I don't know, the Davey Crockett really makes it fun. Like, he puts in sound effects and stuff, and it's actually super, super interesting. And he's written a couple books now too, but he manages the UltraRunning Hall of Fame, which is really cool. And we'll try to keep track of who's inducted and go over that when it happens. But let's go back to Laz. So Laz is from Tennessee. In 1979, there were no ultra marathons near his home, so he created his own, which ended up being the Sterling Gym 40.
Yep.
You said you were thinking about doing Sterling Gym, right?
Yeah, I have me a big fat DNS on Sterling Gym from a couple years back, but it might be one of the only races I might be able to ever get back and be able to do, just because it's road and everything like that. But it is firmly entrenched as a must-do race for me. Firmly entrenched.
Yeah, that's a long running race. I mean,
Since like the 70s, right? 79, I think it.
yeah, 79 is when he created it. You know,
Yeah.
41.2 miles road.
And his only goal is to not lose $100 per runner on it.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And his races would be puzzles meant to challenge the mind, including conch shells, cowbells, cigarette starts, ferry rides, floating start windows. Yeah, he's just very creative. I mean, he's come up with all kinds of cool concepts, including the backyard ultra. He's the guy that invented that. You know, we're not going to go too far into that. We've gone over it on other episodes, but he also has the Vol State, which is 314 miles across Tennessee, which is a nod to the mathematical concept of pi.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, I believe you take a ferry over to Missouri, and then when the race starts, you take the ferry back over to Tennessee.
Yeah. It's also the funny thing about that is every year it's the last year they run. Did you know that? Like every year it's the last year of all. Like that's a whole like, oh, this is last year for it. Like every year, like oh, this is
is that because pi keeps going? Or?
I think so. I don't know. Like I feel like that's that right. But like it's again another and like the crazy thing about that one is
it's called I see what you're saying. It's called the last annual of All State.
Yeah. So it's always the last year. And the wild thing about that one is it is fully unsupported. Like it's just you in a baby stroller, essentially, like hobbling across Tennessee, sleeping on like gas station benches, like eating baby Ruths out of Stop and Robs. Like it's effing awesome.
Yeah. I heard you can do that race crewed or screwed.
Yeah.
So if you do it crewed, you can have somebody that meets you at certain points, but you're screwed.
If Ronnie Delozier is listening, me and you one day, Ronnie. Just we'll do it together. We'll just do it screwed.
Yeah.
When we sleep,
I think if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it screwed. You gotta live dirt bag, going into the gas station, sleeping on church steps.
Yeah. If Ronnie says that he'll do it with me, I'll even let him be the small spoon when we stop and sleep on church steps. I'll even let him I'll be the big spoon for him.
Man, that's so nice of you.
It's sad, I'm a giver. Like that.
He did the last annual Heart of the South, which takes participants hundreds of miles on a chartered bus and just drops them off, and then they have to navigate their way back for like 340 miles.
That one's in Georgia, right?
It's in random places. I think the bus leaves from Tennessee or something, and it just takes them 340 miles in any direction, and it just drops them off. Right?
That is absolutely diabolical, man.
I love it. I love the concept.
So funny.
He created Race for the Ages, which favors older runners because you get, however old you are, you get that many hours to run around the 1 mile loop. So if you're 70, you get 70 hours to see how many miles you can do, but if you're 40, you only get 40 hours to see how many miles you can do.
It's interesting that you view that as favoring the older runner. Right? Wait a second. I'm older.
Well, they get more time.
You get I'm like, no, man, I don't want to run anymore. But you get to it. I don't want to though. I guess I get that's like
that's
such
true.
That's such a weirdly diabolical thing. Like, here, look, I gave you more work to do. Like, what the fuck? Like, no, hold up.
In the first 8 years, 4 of the winners were over 65. So,
golly days, that's awesome.
Yeah. So there's this article. I'll link this article in the show notes. It goes on to talk about him in depth.
Yeah.
He is just a super interesting guy, and he's a great writer too. I love reading his articles in UltraRunning Magazine, and and I do know somebody, Frozen Ed Furtaw. I know that is kind of good friends with Laz, but I get right before we move off of the Laz story. I just got to say my Laz story. So Jess and I went to a wedding in the Grand Tetons in August of 2018. And it was the same year Laz is doing his Transcon, walking across the United States. So we flew into Salt Lake City, and we're driving from Salt Lake City to the Tetons, and we're going through the middle of nowhere, Idaho. I can't even tell you where we were at. It was literally just the middle of nowhere. Okay. And we're driving, and we go by a guy in a white shirt, and a big hat. And I'm like, wait, Laz is doing his Transcon. I'm like, that was Laz.
That's awesome.
It was Laz. So we turned around and went back. And let me see if I can see if I can share this. Yeah, okay, here we go.
While you pull that up, my hope of that is, dude, that is epic. That's a great picture.
Yeah. There's me and Laz in the middle of nowhere, Idaho.
Zoom in. What can we zoom in on? Like what kind of face is Laz giving us here? Just head down, like
Yeah, he was like smoking a cigarette too, like.
What was he
Not
like?
at that point, but just before that.
What was he like to like just talk to? How was he like one-on-one?
He was pretty cool. You could tell he was pretty worn out, you know.
Yeah.
He said it was like taking a toll on him, but yeah, we talked a little bit because he crossed through Ohio, and he crossed through like the Toledo area, and like I think Steve Trail Runner Pierce and a few other people went out and met him and went with him. So I was talking to him about that, and he asked me if I knew somebody that I had no idea who it was.
That is awesome. You're like, of course not. Yeah.
Yeah.
In my mind, I like to pretend in my mind that Laz is just an old hippie. Like,
he is. Yeah.
I just want him to be like a dope smoking, like just super chill, like hippie, man. Like that's who I want Laz to be with every ounce of my being. I don't know. Like it's such an interesting character.
Well, if you think about it, like he's kind of more like I'd say like a hillbilly.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah, he is.
He smokes cigarettes. He's just like, he has people bring him shirts and stuff,
license
or
plates,
socks.
Yeah.
License plate if it's your first Barkley, but
yeah, awesome.
If you're second Barkley, then he picks a clothing item. So
yeah,
he's never going to run out of white button-up shirts, right?
Correct.
It's like all he wears.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right, let's get into so UltraRunning Magazine. They release their Ultra Runners of the Year and everything. Well, they have a whole bunch of other categories, so I figured that maybe we could just go over a couple of these categories each week. But first thing we're going to go over is the 2023 Performances of the Year. Now, in the women's top 5 Performances of the Year, Courtney Dauwalter has 3 of the
three
top
of them. Yeah.
First is Western States, which she did 15 hours 29 seconds, or 15 hours 29 minutes 33 seconds, which is faster than most of the legends of ultra running have run it, males and females. And then Hard Rock, 26 hours 14 minutes. Both of those were course records. That was first and second top performances. And then Katie Scheid, her Western States run was third, 16 hours and 43 minutes. And Courtney's UTMB was fourth at 23 hours and 29 minutes. And then Ashley Paulson's Badwater 135. We were just talking about that. That was fifth for the women.
Mm-hmm.
So no surprise there. Courtney dominating. And then also they have the, actually let's go to the men's. Let's go to the men's. Oh, shoot. Sorry about that. There we go. Men's top 5 performances. Walmsley's UTMB course record was
Of
first.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, 19 hours, 37 seconds. Not 19 hours, 37 minutes. I don't know what is up with me. Seconds over minutes. Second was Charlie Lawrence, and we talked about him on the records episode. He set the 50-mile world record at Tunnel Hill in 4 hours and 48 seconds. And I heard him on the Adventure Jogger podcast. Super, super cool. Just, like low key, let's say low key confidence or low key bragger. He's just like
humble bragger.
Yeah, humble brag.
Yeah.
Total humble brag. He's like, I knew what my capabilities were, and I knew, what I had to do, and I knew I could do it. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what's in store for him in the future. I don't even know what races he has next, but he has the world record in the 50-miler. So we know he's fast. Harvey Lewis's Big's backyard record, 450 miles, is third. And Jonathan Ray's course record at Javelina, 12 hours and 43 minutes, is fourth. And Zach Miller's second place UTMB finish, under 20 hours, in fifth. So
it's a badass second place finish when it makes this list still yet.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, no kidding. And all these top 5 are well deserving. That Igor Varies guy that had the assist at Biggs he received votes. Anthony Constalis's Black Canyon 100K record last year had some votes. Arlen Glick's Umstead 100 course record has some votes. Zach Miller's Tarawara. Oh, speaking of Tarawara, I forgot to mention that the Tarawara races are this weekend as well. Zach Garner for Bear 100. Walmsley.
It's kind of interesting because, like Arlen's, it's kind of weird. Arlen's record at Olmsted is received votes, right? But you look at Charlie's finish for a 50-miler at Tunnel Hill, gets second. But
it's a world record, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know.
Arlen's story about Umstead is really great, though. How he only had like 30 seconds of downtime or something. Teeing on their own.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Maybe it's me being a Tunnel Hill snob. I don't know. Get off my front yard. I don't know. Well, shit. Look at how is Harvey third to that? You know what I mean?
I don't know. Hopefully when our podcast catches fire and we're well known in the ultra running community, they'll make us voters for
for
the UltraRunning Magazine.
Then you'll see. So,
but your point is well taken. Some of this stuff is kind of suspect.
Yeah,
for sure.
What else we got next?
Okay. The other thing we have is the age group performances of the year.
Interesting.
So in the women, top 5, Bev Anderson Abs, who's, she's pretty famous. Heard about her a lot. She's 58 years old. And in the Jed Smith 50 mile, she finished in 6 hours and 32 minutes. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
For a 58-year-old.
Yeah.
That's pretty well deserving first place.
That's badass. Yeah.
And Charlotte Gilbert, who's 72 years old, finished Ruth Anderson 50 mile in sub 10, like 9 hours and 41 minutes.
Damn.
Yeah. At 72.
Damn.
Aspirations, am I right?
Golly days.
Yeah. Liza Howard, who's 51, finished Badger 100 in 16 hours and 50 minutes. Becky Bates, who's 62, finished Hard Rock 100 in 36 hours, which is insane.
That's insane.
Insane.
That doesn't even make sense. You know what? Listen, I get it. There were a handful of people faster on other races. Again, how the F is a 62-year-old Hard Rock finisher 4th on this list?
Yeah.
Get the F out of here.
No doubt. And if you go on UltraRunning's website, which I'll post a link, you have to be an UltraRunning Magazine subscriber to be able to view this stuff online. But there's a ton of other performances that got votes. So I mean, there's just so many great performances. It's just really crazy. But in fifth place is the world famous Pam Reed, who's just a machine. She did Badwater 135, finished in 35 hours and 5 minutes. So.
God.
And I believe she did that right around the same time as like some other races as well. So pretty awesome. All right. Well,
do we got the top 5 for old men?
Oh yeah, thanks. I almost skipped right by it.
Yeah.
Old men.
Old men.
Oh yeah, and I want to talk about this too.
Yeah.
Wally Hesseltine. He's a Bay Area guy. He lives in the South Bay. I just heard him on on Adventure Jogger podcast. It's a great episode. I highly recommend everybody go listen to it. But he finished Tunnel Hill at 80 years old. 80 years old. He finished Tunnel Hill 100 in 26 hours and 22 minutes.
That might be faster than I can finish Tunnel Hill.
That's actually a U.S. Age group record.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a world record, but it's a U.S. age group record.
I mean, yeah, 101 probably. I mean, let's be honest here.
No, I mean like time wise, 26 hours for 100, 26 hours, 22 minutes for 100.
Right. For that age, that's a record for that age, right? But I'm saying how many 8-year-olds are knocking out 100-milers?
Yeah. I know. I don't know. It's insane.
This one hurts. Like this one kind of hurts me to see this name on here.
What, second place?
Yes.
Yeah. So second place in the men's top 5 performances for age group is Jeff Browning, Bronco Billy, 51 years old.
Bless. That hurts, man. Son of a bitch. Like, how? Come on. Can't be fun.
I just heard Carl Meltzer on a podcast, and he's like 50. Was he 57, 58? Yeah. And he's still busting out. He's gonna have 100 milers here pretty soon, and he's won half of them.
Yeah.
But going back to Bronco Billy, I want to give him his due. He's 51. He finished Bighorn 100 in sub 20 hours, which was a sloppy race this year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had a ton of snowpack. It was a bunch of melt, so I think it was a bunch of mud, but 19 hours and 47 minutes for Bighorn. That's a hard rock qualifier too. And he was doing the Rocky Mountain Slam. So he had like 4 or 5 really tough mountain hunters. Third place was Edward Russo, 83 years old, jackpot 100 in 30 hours and 9 minutes.
Just talk about jackpot. There you go. Yeah.
83 years old, 30 hours and 9 minutes. Chad Lassiter was 4th. He's 51. And at the IAU 24 hour, he did 155 miles.
That name rings a bell. Yeah.
51. Bob Hearn, 57 years old. And Bob Hearn is a pretty interesting guy too. He's been on Adventure Jogger podcast talking about the Heart of the South. That's one of Laz's races, Heart of the South. Like HOTS, I think they call it. It's short for HOTS. It's a very tough race. And 347 miles he did in 104 hours. So, and again, there's a whole bunch of other performances that got votes. So,
right. Do we have time? Do we want to talk about 6 lessons, or do you want to hold that for next week? Or
I think we'll just hold it for next week. We're about at our 1 hour and 10, 1 hour 11 minute range. So.
That's 6 lessons for that I learned is a pretty cool one. I want to give it its time to kind of talk about because that's a good one. So I don't want to feel rushed.
Yeah, I want to comment on that too, and maybe interject some of my own thoughts on that.
That's awesome.
But no, it was good episode. I was glad Black Canyon was fun. So that's about all I had. Try to give us a like, subscribe, rate us on the podcast if you're listening, all that good stuff.
Hit us up, let us know.
Yeah. Shoot us an email, whatever.
Awesome. All right. I appreciate it.
All right. Yep. Thanks, everyone. And we'll go ahead and take us out now.
Take us out.